Rated M for mature.
My dear sister, I write these lines with a heavy heart as I find myself, once more, imprisoned by shogunate forces. These corrupt men accuse me of treason, but I say it is they who betray our land, leaving her in great despair. They are scared and weak, clinging to power, no matter the cost. Let them pass judgment, for I chose my fate years ago, when the black ships arrived, like mountains rising from the sea. It struck fear into their hearts that night, but for me, a flame was kindled, flickering with the promise of a new Japan. She can be sovereign, and she can be free. Seize this opportunity, my sister. Rise up and oppose. Seek allies wherever you find them, and bring them to our call. For if our vision is to succeed, the shogunate must fall.
Rise of the Ronin is without a doubt Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo's biggest and most ambitious project to date. Team Ninja has always designed action games, usually following a linear level design, which leads to an all-powerful boss. This time, I wanted to make a game where the player could fully immerse themselves into the game's world, the universe and story. You play as a powerful Ronin, trained from a young age as one half of a pair by a secretive group known as the Veiled Edge. Separated from your blade twin for the first time, you now find yourself alone. The Bakumatsu era is a special period in history for Japan. American gunboats, known as the Black Ships, arrived off the coast of Japan in the mid-1800s, forcing Japan to open up its market to the Western powers. This caused great turmoil in the country between the ruling shogunate, who looked to maintain military power while containing both the threat from the West, as well as the anti-shogunate forces, such as the Choshu clan, who wanted to overthrow the shogunate and change the way Japan was run.
As the smoke rises, so shall we. So shall we!
You could say that Haji and the Shoka Shinjuku school was the birthplace of this ideology, following the teachings of its most influential figure in Yoshida Shoin. Although it was a different world and a different time, I believe he could be compared to Socrates. I wanted to depict his teachings and his life from the moment I started working on Rise of the Ronin. He wasn't just a philosopher. He insisted on the importance of taking action.
The people must rise and demand revolution. How else can change endure?
Rise of the Ronin is set during the period known as Bakumatsu, and at the moment that is the darkest before dawn. The darkness is represented by the constant political pressure piling on the shogun, widespread disease, and several battles being fought and lost.
I wanted to show that energy building up in these darkest moments, while the people waited for everything to implode. I was impressed how the team focused on every detail during the creation of this universe. A great story unravels based on actual historical research. from the cities and villages to the historical figures depicted, such as Katsukasha or Sakamoto Ryoma. There's also a specific energy from that period in history that the team as a whole wanted to express within the game.
Looking at the Bakumatsu era, it was a time where multiple schools of thought and cultures were merging together. I wanted to express that chaotic world through sound. When it came to the score, we related with the black ships coming to Japan by having an Occidental composer, Inon Zur, join us on the project.
It's interesting to notice that the two main instruments that are carrying most of the melodies in the score are one Japanese and one Western. The cello, on one hand, it's very westernized, but playing the Japanese melodies, it's almost like talking to this era. And the shakuhachi, on the other hand, such a strong Japanese signature. But when it plays the music from the score, I let it many times play melodies that are more westernized. So together, this choice really added to the whole soundscape of the score.
From an art perspective, it was not just about building a large-scale world, which would have been planned. So, in order to avoid that, we've worked on building landmarks during the process. Yokohama, Edo, Kyoto. It turns out Koei Tecmo has offices in these three locations, making them somewhat familiar. So it was easy to start to build an image for them. Obviously, these locations were very different back then, though. While we looked at these and continued our research process, we realized we had to add more texture to the game. We started working on the colors and the atmosphere in order to build Ronin's environment.
As you wander through various locations, some territories are dangerous as they are controlled by bandits. Alternatively, a city would be ruled differently, bringing in new types of challenges and battles. You can feel how that was recreated as you play the game. I believe players will be able to enjoy that.
It is time to end this.
Action remains at the core of Rise of the Ronin. It is the culmination of our previous work on action games as Team Ninja.
Team Ninja's action is known for its high speed and difficulty. We feel it's part of the player's expectations as well.
There's the importance of action in gameplay, and the power of authenticity you get from a period drama story.
Let's fight!
Whilst I was visiting places such as Shokusunjuku or Meiringakusha, I realized how locals were truly dedicated to their studies at the time. There were plenty of academic manuals, including research on the Dutch and Occidental weaponry. At a time when Japan was isolated and people couldn't access any information from the rest of the world, it was incredible to see the amount of foreign information, worldly cultures, and teachings they were studying. They then put this to good use in order to build Japan's future. I believe we managed to convey that in Rise of the Ronin as well.
Looking at the Bakumatsu era, there were many philosophers with different schools of thought. They can be split into pro- and anti-shogunate ideologies. These ideologies fought and contrasted with each other. The goal was to look at how this fight would translate in the action, which weapons and fighting styles would be adopted, and first of all, why that fight was happening.
Ready yourselves!
We looked at each personality, along with the choice of weapon, and worked out how to make these battles authentic within Ronin.
The more we researched, the more we found. The Munen star and the Hokushinto star as well demonstrated how these people lived their life through the katana, how it was their weapon of choice.
It was here where we really felt the power of history.
From that period, as we moved towards the modern era, weaponry changed. For example, handguns were introduced. We had to think how to integrate them and balance the use of them with close combat, which meant we had to develop gameplay that incorporated both close combat and ranged attacks.
Bayonet was a logical addition when we thought of developing new weapons for Ronin. It perfectly suits the Bakumatsu era. We dedicated time to working on adding new gimmicks in the fighting actions.
This game is completely original. As an action game, I believe that it wasn't necessary to make the game resemble a history textbook. It was about creating a reality that was totally plausible in Rise of the Ronin's universe. The team would either agree or disagree to several ideas each day to crystallize what was possible in this game's universe.
When it comes to action, first I look at something that is humanly possible. Actions you are able to achieve through exercise and training. This is the action that I wanted to make, rather than people just flying around. I wanted to explore what is possible for humans to achieve after long years of dedicated training.
I know. Tag along with me, will you?
What we insisted on most whilst building Rise of the Ronin story was creating a bond system. We looked at the bond you create with other historical figures. Then they can either help you or become opponents.
Won't lay a finger on me!
Depending on the people you take with you, this will also affect the techniques you can use too. Having a certain character with you will bring something unique. It also allows for unexpected combinations that might prove to be worthwhile. You can switch between characters as well. It was a lot of work to create the system, but it was definitely the right thing to do.
There is also the ability to read an enemy's moves to your advantage that is unique to this game. This is demonstrated through the counter-spark system. Actions used based on the opponent's moves. It needs to be used with precise timing, and you have to be able to predict your enemy's moves. large part of the combat in Ronin is based around a wide variety of actions you can choose to combat your enemies. It was essential for us that the player gets positive feelings from the action, to feel the battles, and for the enemy actions to look cool. However, as we set the stage for the game and built its story, the period drama aspect was a strong element that we always kept in mind.
This nation is in your hands!
時代劇特有の浪人らしさみたいなものはすごく
There are typical characteristics to a Ronin that I want players to experience through the game. A Ronin is a samurai who doesn't have a master. They explore various places, meeting diverse people. They don't spend much time in the same place, but they always achieve something important, often saving people in some way. They don't really have any strong convictions. Instead, they follow the choices that the player makes. I believe that fits perfectly with the freedom we wanted to give to players during their experience, and to create an open world. Open world has become extremely popular and commonplace in the action game genre. One of its charms is the feeling of exploration, as well as deciding the order to pursue tasks and being able to make your own choices. The Ronin has a blade twin who grew up with him. The bond between the two is the backbone of the game.
You can't stop the war, no one can. This nation will descend into chaos.
The Blade Twin is something that is almost the other side of the story. It's not about good and bad. It's more about something that is very different and contradicting the story of the hero. So writing the theme for this character actually was the most challenging for me.
For the characters, we looked at the way they lived and their outlook on life and conveyed that in their appearance. For characters close to the shogunate, we would keep an Edo style that resonates with the shogunate. Alternatively, for the anti-shogunate characters, we wouldn't hesitate to include Western influences to their styling, such as equipping them with rifles or have them already wearing leather shoes. For Western political forces, we insisted on designs that put forward that Occidental aspect. We wanted these characters to look real.
Japan. The great white whale that's eluded all others.
There are many characters during the Bakumatsu era, such as Perry, for example.
Perry, yeah.
There are also characters from other nationalities. Usually, you would think it would create issues to have them fight, but you managed to make it blend smoothly within the story and the events.
Fighting is such a bore.
Our narrative thread ended up being the bond system. As we developed the bond system, the first aspect that started taking form was the strength of bonds with other characters.
I know. Tag along with me, will you?
Ryoma evolves together with the main character from the beginning. He goes on to play a major role within the game. As we were creating him, we wanted to design the coolest image of Ryoma.
Join us later if the mood strikes you.
The choices the player makes are key elements in changing the strength of bond forged with other characters, which goes on to affect the story.
I'm going to need you on our side.
If you choose to go pro-shogunate, Katsura may become sort of an enemy. It's not fully the case though. You always oscillate between friend and foe.
Katsura is a good character to have as an ally, but also as an enemy, as he gives you that satisfaction of beating a boss.
Yeah, that's true.
You can end up with the opposite feeling towards him.
That's good.
If you go pro-shogunate, the anti-shogunate Katsura will definitely look to block you.
Then along the way you encounter Takamuriyama. The pro-shogunate suddenly becomes attractive.
There are some beautiful characters on your journey.
Yeah, there are.
I have some contacts in the shogunate. If you are interested in doing a favor for them, I could make the necessary arrangements.
There's a real diversity of people in the game. It got me thinking that I would have liked living in that period. Have you ever wondered which side you would take?
That's interesting.
What do you think?
Yeah, I have.
I'm more of the rustic type, so I would have probably gone full-on katana. A bit like Kondo Isamu.
I definitely think that after completing the game, players won't make the same choices for their second run. I also think that it makes it fun to talk to friends about it.
We felt obliged to make a game that we could enjoy ourselves. I believe that everybody put all their effort into making Rise of the Ronin a unique game with unique value. I truly believe that the team working so well together led to the high-quality game we have achieved with Rise of the Ronin. Thinking about my initial vision for this game and the ideas I had 7 years ago, I wondered whether players would be able to play and enjoy it. I honestly believe that many of those ideas and elements are now in the final game.
As an open world, we reached a large scale of development where it would have been impossible for Yasuda to look into and follow up on every single detail of the game.
Prior to this game, I had worked as the sole director of Team Ninja, together with my team. That framework didn't radically change, but in assigning multiple directors, we made sure to communicate through regular meetings involving the larger team to maintain quality.
Obviously, it's not a task achievable alone. I believe that he managed to build a strong trust relationship with the other directors around him.
That's the spirit. I'm counting on you.
It turns out Yasuda had helped towards the end of my previous project. He was sharing a lot of feedback. I got to hear about his philosophy, which convinced me that I wanted to work with him.
I remember Yasuda joining Team Ninja as a new graduate when we were working on Ninja Gaiden 2. I thought he was impressive, although he was still young. We soon noticed a shared understanding between us. I'd start explaining something and he'd already have grasped everything.
He's an ally, a brother in arms. We've been working together for a long time. I'm also a fan of his games. I played so much Neo 2 that it almost started to affect my work.
When he brought up the project, I saw how much planning, research, and effort Yasuda had already put into it. You could feel the passion from him and his team. In every meeting, it was obvious how he'd planned all the elements.
Keishi has this talent to get people to work together. That was very stimulating for me.
Inon is a composer with prolific experience overseas. He's a veteran in the field, but knew how to listen to our requests and proactively incorporate them into the project.
It wasn't easy at the beginning. I really took upon myself to study Japanese music, study the scales, study the instruments. In fact, bought some of the instruments. And I can say that in the past 2 years, I really dove into this amazing world of Japanese music.
At the very end, we had a recording session in London with an orchestra, which was where I got to meet him in person for the first time. I remember the smile on his face when we finally met.
You and I are true friends now, no doubt about it. If you're ever in trouble, just let me know.
We grew to a really large team on Rise of the Ronin, going through a long development period.
It's the first time I'd worked on a project of this scale. There were times when we confronted each other, but the game improved as a result.
From a personal perspective, my child was born right about the time I joined the game's development. He is 3 years old now, which makes me realize the time we've spent on this project.
Over the long period of time we were developing the work, it was really exciting to see how everything gradually started coming together.
I feel that Team Ninja has gained strength in its ability to deliver valuable experiences to players. I think we're able to target bigger titles and even greater challenges in the future.
Your time has come. Rise as one.
PlayStation